Ken saying to himself,
Okay, in response.
not the hollow one.
In response, exile that Street Wraith. So let's have a look here. Draw 4, discard 3. You, Lou,
Pick 3, any 3.
1, 2, and 3 cards effectively picked at random here.
No hollow one. He can play a hollow one this turn.
All right.
Oh, he found another
he's got
one.
a second hollow one off the top of the Goblin Lore. Oh, easy game. Look at this. Ken Yukihiro going off through a Relic of Progenitus. Lu Yu Chen absolutely on the ropes now after this huge swing.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTG Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is Red Black Hollow One from the modern Rivals of Ixalan Pro Tour. So this list is the exact replica of Ken Yukihiro's deck that he brought to the Pro Tour this past weekend. I wanted to go over it here today because I think it is amazing and super explosive. I didn't want to change any cards, I didn't want to do anything like that. I just wanted to go over it here today for you guys, and then we'll kind of go over it on the stream today as well. I'm doing this just in case you guys missed the Pro Tour this past weekend. I know I did because I was kind of busy, but I did get to see this list and kind of see some cards of it in action. But of course, before we get into it, make sure to like the video. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment to let me know what kind of decks you want to see in the future. But without further ado, let's get right into it. We have a card here from Amonkhet. It is Flameblade Adept, a 4 of 1 mana, 1/2 Jackal Warrior with Menace. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Flameblade Adept gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So a great turn 1 play for us, and a great way to get in some damage with evasion thanks to its Menace ability. You'll find out soon enough that basically every card in this deck makes us either cycle cards or discard them. And that is really good news for us. And moving on here to our next card, we have Bloodghast, a 2 mana 4 of 2/1 Vampire Spirit. Bloodghast can't block. Bloodghast has haste as long as an opponent's life is 10 or less. And Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return Bloodghast from your graveyard to the battlefield. Keep in mind, if we have multiple Bloodghasts in the graveyard and we have a fetch land happen, that is 2 lands hitting the battlefield, that's 2 landfall triggers, and that does mean if we have 2 Bloodfasts in the graveyard, both of them are coming back to the battlefield. Just a very good card of being able to attack out on turn 3, or in the mid to late game, where our opponent may not have as many creatures on the battlefield, depending on what kind of matchup we're up against. Bloodghast can be a great way to continue to press pressure to our opponent. Moving up here, we have a Flamewake Phoenix. This is a card from Fate Reforged here, a 3 mana 4 of 2/2 Phoenix with flying and haste. Flamewake Phoenix attacks each turn if able. Then we have Ferocious. At the beginning of a combat on your turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may pay 1 red mana. If you do, return Flamewake Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this is a hollow one deck, so there's going to be a 4/4 on the battlefield most of the time, and Flamewake Phoenix is going to come from the graveyard back to the battlefield. And of course, attacking on that combat turn. Again, most of the creatures in here are all about being aggressive, all about being extremely fast. Flamewake Phoenix is the perfect kind of keynote before we get into our hollow one here. And of course we have hollow one. It's a 5 mana 4 of 4/4 golem. Hollow one costs 2 colorless less to cast for each card you've cycled or discarded this turn, and it has cycling for 2 colorless. Because this is a hollow one deck, we don't really want to be cycling hollow one at all, and more often than not we'll be casting hollow one for free on most turns. And of course that could be a possible turn 2 thanks to some cards in our deck. Well, hollow one itself may not be a value creature in that it doesn't have like First Strike or Vigilance or like Menace or anything like that. It is a 4/4 that can be basically played for free on turn 1 through 3. It's a very powerful card and very quick on the play against an opponent that may not be expecting it as much. But Hollow One is the key mark card of the deck here. Let's get on to the rest of the creatures here. We have 4 Street Wraith. It's a 5 mana 3/4 Wraith with Swamp Walk and cycling, pay 2 life. More often than not, we're not going to use Street Wraith as an actual cast ability. It's going to be a cycler for us, hopefully getting us another Hollow One or just making the Hollow One cheaper for us. We do pay 2 life for that cycle cost, but it's fantastic for us either way. Being able to pay 2 life instead of having to pay mana is very good on turn 1. Moving up here, we have 1 Tassiger the Golden Fang. This is an interesting card that Ken put in here. It's a 6 mana 1 of 4/5 legendary creature human shaman with Delve, which means of course each card you exile from your graveyard while casting this card pays for 1 colorless, which means that since we're discarding a lot of cards, this could just be a 1 mana 4/5, which is fantastic. Then we have pay 4 mana, put the top 2 cards from your library into your graveyard, then return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. So it does give you kind of like fact or fiction situation where your opponent has to choose one of the two. I really like this card a lot in this inclusion here. I do think Delve is very, very good with this kind of discard strategy. And I do think Tasker itself, even in the standard ability when it was back in standard, this card is amazing, super powerful. And of course, being a 1 mana 4/5 doesn't make it a slouch either. And the last 3 creatures of the deck here, you know what they are. They are Gurmang Angler. This is a 7 mana 5/5 with Delve. And of course, that means each card you exile from your graveyard while casting this spell costs 1 colorless almost less. So it could be a 1 black mana 5/5, which is ridiculous, especially on turns like 3 or 4. Of course, the Angler doesn't really have anything like as far as evasion or any kind of special ability. It's just a 1 mana 5/5, so it could just be a dead card in our hand depending on what kind of like deck we're up against. But being able to come in on turn 4 or 5 as a 5/5 on the play is very good. But that does it for creatures in the deck. There are 24 in total. Let's move on to spells here. We have 4 Burning Inquiry, fantastic card for us. It's a 1 mana 4/5 sorcery. Each player draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random. So it does go for our opponent as well. However, our opponent may not be on the same discard strategy that we are on, and if they're not, they're really not going to gain that much momentum as much as we are from this card. But a turn 1 Burning Inquiry into 2 or maybe even just 1 Hollow One on turn 1 is ridiculous. Very, very fast, very effective, because of course Hollow One is 2 less to cast for each card discarded this way. So if we discard 3 cards, that makes it free. Next up here we have some more discard cards. Faithless Looting. It is a 1 mana sorcery. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. And of course it has flashback for 3 mana. We've seen in some of the matchups on the Pro Tour this past weekend that Lantern Control is kind of a hard deck to deal with, especially against a fast deck like our deck right here. But we do have situations if they do mill into a Faithless Looting into our graveyard, we can still cast it with flashback, which is not bad either. And of course that's 2 discard triggers, meaning that our Hollow One will be just 1 mana. And this does give us kind of the option to be able to discard cards we want to discard and not necessarily at random, which is very good for us too. Next up here we have 4 of Lightning Bolt. It's a red deck, it's got to have Lightning Bolts. It's a 1 mana instant, deals 3 damage to target creature or player. This is a great way to finish off an opponent, either shoot down a planeswalker we don't like a Liliana of the Veil, or ping down a creature that's kind of in our way. Fantastic value for us and a modern staple forever. Next up here we have 2 Collective Brutality, another card that's very, very good for us. It's a 2 mana sorcery 2/of with Escalate, which means we can discard a card and choose more options here. It's choose 1 or more, and then of course its target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose an instant or sorcery card from it. That player discards that card. Perfect for us. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn, so basically removal, and target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So a really nice 2-point life swing. So being Collective Brutality here, we can pay 2 mana, discard 3 cards, and make a Hollow One for free, as well as send cards to the graveyard that we actually want to send to the graveyard, like Faithless Looting or Flamewake Phoenix, or even something else, so we can kind of get out those creatures from the graveyard, like a Bloodghast and some stuff like that. We're all about that value in this deck, and discarding cards is just part of it. And the last card in the main board here, which is an interesting pick for us, we have Goblin Lore. This is such a crazy card for us. It's a 2 mana 4/of sorcery. Draw 4 cards, then discard 3 cards at random. This card could either make or break a situation in our actual deck list here. While Burning Inquiry is also a random card here, Goblin Lore does give us the ability to draw 4 just for us, and then discard 3. So if we're on the play on turn 2, we'll likely go up to 10 cards in hand, going back down to 7. As Goblin Lore does replace itself, kind of, but at random again, if that does go off the way we want it to go off, that does mean we either get 1 or 2 different Hollow Ones coming out for free, and if it goes off the way we don't want it to go off, we might just be discarding Hollow Ones to the graveyard. Either way, it feels good to live on the edge. I think this card is fun and should be in the deck here. Let's move on to lands real quick. We have a ton of, dual lands, fetch lands, that kind of stuff. We have 1 Arid Mesa. Of course, this is a fetch land for us. Pay 1 life, sacrifice Arid Mesa, search your library for a mountain or plains, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Then we have 3 Black Clove Cliffs. Black Clove Cliffs enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. Taps for black and red. Then we have 3 Blood Crypt. This is a shock land for us. It comes in tapped unless you want to pay 2 life. Then we have 4 Bloodstained Mire. This is another fetch land for us. Pay 1 sack it, search for a swamp or a mountain. Then we have Scalding Tarn, of course, which because this is a mono deck, Scalding Tarn is going to be in it. Another fetch land for us. We have 1 Stopping Ground, which is a shock land for us for green and red. Then we have 2 Wooded Foothills, another fetch land for us for green and red. Then we have 2 Mountain and 1 Swamp. And that's it for the actual lands. There are only 18 in the deck thanks to all the fetch lands in the deck, as well as all of the draw and discard in the deck as well. So of course, game 1 game plan, turn 1 go for a Burning Inquiry, maybe get a Hollow One out on turn 1. Turn 2 hopefully get a second land, go for a Goblin Lore, and then play out some Hollow Ones for free again, or maybe even something else. But turn over turn, we're looking to hopefully get a win as quickly as possible, hopefully by turn 3 or 4, as far as like getting out our entire board state to be able to be huge against our opponent. Of course, there were bad matchups for us, and we really need to deal with them as quickly as possible, so let's see what we can do in the sideboard here in Ken Yukuhiro's deck. We have 2 Fatal Push, fantastic card that's in standard right now, a fantastic card for us in modern, hopefully going up against Grixis Death's Shadow. It's a 2/1 mana instant. Destroy target creature if it has converted mana cost 2 or less. This is going to kill a Death Shadow, going to kill a Tarmogoyf, things like that. Then we have 3 Grim Lavamancer, a 3 of 1 mana 1/1. It's a pay 1 red and tap it. Exile 2 cards from your graveyard. Grim Lavamancer deals 2 damage to target creature or players. So because we have a lot of cards going to the graveyard, Grim Lavamancer could be a great way to just ping our opponent down until they're dead. Moving on here, we have 2 Ancient Grudge. This is a 2 mana 2 of destroy target artifact instant and has flashback for green, which means we can actually destroy 2 artifacts with this card thanks to the flashback trigger. This is of course coming in against Affinity, against probably Lantern Control, anything else that has artifacts that we don't like. Next up here we have one more Collective Brutality. Again, it's a great card for us, especially against a control matchup or especially against a more combo heavy matchup to get rid of any instants or sorcery cards from their hand. Collective Brutality will most likely be replacing a Goblin lore in the main board if we bring a Brutality in. Moving on here, we have 2 Big Game Hunter, a 3 mana 1/1 creature human rebel assassin, and when Big Game Hunter comes into play, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, it can't be regenerated. It also has madness for 1 black mana. This is a good way to get rid of a Death Shadow that's large for us, or a Tarmogoyf that's very large, or any kind of large creature on our opponent's side of the field that we do not like. It's also a madness cost, so if we do discard it thanks to one of our abilities here, Big Game Hunter is going to be able to be cast with its madness cost instead. Moving on for some more hate here, we have 2 Blood Moon. This is a 3 mana enchantment. Non-basic lands are mountains, so a great way to shut down an opponent's strategy. It has a lot of non-basic lands, such as Tron and the like. And then the last 3 cards here in the sideboard, we have 3 Leyline of the Void, a 4 mana 3 of enchantment. If Leyline of the Void is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield, which is great already. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So a great way against Dredge, great way against any kind of delve mechanic against us, and of course a great way of shutting down a Snapcaster Mage with all of the flashback. Leyline of the Void is really here to kind of help slow down an opponent that is kind of going up against us that has a lot of graveyard interaction, or maybe even the mirror match against another Hollow One deck. And that is the full 75, folks. On MTG Traders is coming to about 348 tickets online, and in paper it's coming to about $658. And of course most of that's coming to the land. Of course Bloodghast is coming in here as a pricey card, and Collective Brutality is getting up there in price as well. Not to mention Blood Moon is kind of on a slow and steady path back upwards. But this is a top 8 modern deck here from the Pro Tour, so I really wanted to cover it, even though it is super expensive. I did want to go over it because I do think this deck is extremely fun and extremely random, and if you're into having some casual modern fun that can be competitive, I think this is a great deck for you. But of course, guys, let me know what you think. Do you like the deck? Do you hate the deck? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I am super surprised that this deck actually got into the top 8 of the Pro Tour. I do think it's one of those decks that's just like, it's incredibly random and can be very, very good or very, very terrible. And I think it's kind of one of those decks that's amazing to watch. And that is why we're going to play it today on stream, I hope. But that's going to do for today's video. Like the video, of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment below on what kind of deck I should cover next, and I'll see you guys on the stream or in the next video. Peace.